Back on the record.
Back on the record, of the regularly scheduled Taxicab Authority Board meeting for December. We're to agenda item 7, which is public hearing on our initiated rate reviews and funding and technology fee received by the Taxicab Authority pursuant to NRS 706-88254 and NRS 706-88263C. This is a public hearing to determine whether to post that. Impose an additional rate charge or fare. We have a presentation by the administrator.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, members of the board. I appreciate your attention and I thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you today. Last month, you heard me give some information about where the Taxicab Authority is financially. I know member Decker was not here at that time, so I'm going to kind of regurgitate some of the information again. With me today, I have the Chief of Enforcement sitting to my right. I have my Deputy Administrator. I have Emily Servey from our financial section out of the Director's Office. She flew in today from your neck of the woods, Sheriff. And I don't know, is there snow up there? I'm not sure.
Pardon?
Is there snow up there right now?
Not
yet.
Rain.
Well,
Lots of rain.
having this group of people, you can see how serious and important this topic is to me. I've learned quite a bit in the last few months. I attended another rate case hearing. One of the issues with rate cases, I heard the old Vice Chair Don Soderberg say you need to throw three things. One, you have to show what the rate is. Two, you have to find out what the justification for a rate increase is. And three, what's the public interest? And I think during our presentation today, we're going to be able to check all three of those marks. And I'm also going to throw in there who can approve that. And I'm going to show by statute who can do it, and it's you guys. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I've been talking about this situation for a long time. We've gone through a legislative session. I've talked with the industry. The industry was supportive of us getting rate increases, but nothing has happened. More recently, I wanted to kind of hold off because of this other rate fee increase that was being presented. That's over. Last month, I told you I'm going to be here this month asking for that rate increase, and here I am. So if you don't mind, I'd like to get right into the presentation. The drop fee was presented, or I'm sorry, hasn't been raised since 2003. And you guys may have it in your binder.
Yes.
Okay. The drop fee is established by the legislature. Like I said, it has not been raised since 2003. It sits at 20 cents. And the only people that can raise that fee is the legislature. The tech fee was created in 2013. It hasn't been raised since then, since the creation of it in 2013. The rides have flattened. COVID hit us. The decrease in rides has been about 1.68% annually. And according to the Bureau of Statistics, inflation has gone up approximately 68.5% since 2003. I don't know how anybody can survive that kind of an inflation rate increase without having more money coming to them. And my agency's had to do that, and we continue to do that. And I continue to watch my agency have positions cut. I've heard the industry speak several times, even again today, about us not being able to take care of the illegal transportation the way we would like to. That is a direct reflection on the amount of money that I have. I can't pay overtime for the rodeo or EDC or any of these other larger events because I don't have the money to do it. I can't get my enforcement officers out there, and I'm going to let Dominic talk about that here in a minute as well. So the average inflation rate has been about 2.68% annually during that same period of time. And with that, I want to let Dominic talk about the operational strain and service reductions that we've been going through because of it. A lot of that has to do with the enforcement staff. So Dominic.
Morning, board. Chief Dominic Delpater for the record. When I first took over in August, my first concern as a law enforcement officer was, where's my number one resource at? Just bodies, humans. 100%. I was like, oh, this will be easy. No problem. And then the deeper I got into this job, the more I learned we're at 100% because we keep cutting positions. So it's easy to be at 100%. We continue to do that. When you look at the job that we are tasked to do, we are woefully behind. The numbers we have do not equate to a properly regulated industry, which is resulting in problems. The illegal transportation is absolutely a gargantuan problem. At Nevada Transportation Authority, we have a little bit more money. We were able to do overtime for F1, resulting in 14 towed vehicles that were transporting illegally. The same weekend, without that overtime over at Taxicab Authority, we got one. And it wasn't like they weren't out there trying, because I made them out there trying. Same boss, same tactics, same everything. The only difference was the lack of pay, resulting in an inability to protect the industry. The regulation of the taxi cab has slowed due to financial burden. We only had enough money to purchase 2/3 of our software that helps us resource multiply. So if you're a properly equipped officer and you have better software, you can do more. Well, if you only have 2/3 of that software, you're not going to go very far. I have only enough tasers to equip 3 of my officers. That's not even enough for every shift. Sharing a taser is not something we do. So we just don't have enough money to properly equip, properly prepare a workforce that is at least half of what it really should be. We're not covering anything we work in Las Vegas, 24/7 town. We don't have shifts 24/7. We don't have dispatchers that even can answer the phone 24/7 because we've been reduced so much. And then the reclassification from dispatcher 3 to call taker definitely is a gut punch and a huge deterrent for even those call takers to continue to exist. No one is going to want that job at that rate of pay because, quite frankly, they are dispatchers. I've been at the state police. I've seen them work, and I've seen Taxicab Authority do their work. I don't care what HR says. They don't have the experience I do. They are dispatchers. And if you don't pay them the right amount, and if you don't call them that, they're at the proper rank. So we'll close up shop. Go back to smoke signals. Back to you, Todd.
Okay, thank you. So I did talk about in my opening where the authority comes from, and you can see in NRS 706-8825 that is where where was established our funds, where our funds were established, and I know that you guys are well aware of this because we just went through a rate case not long ago, and we talked I listened, and I heard 706-8825 and 706-8826 was referenced quite a bit. So that's where the authority came from for the increases or for the budgetary parts to our agency. In 706-8825, a technology fee in the amount set by the Taxicab Authority. That's you guys. You guys are the ones that get to set that amount. And I also want to add that every fee that you guys approve automatically goes onto the meter. It's nothing that you guys have to approve that has to be approved to go on the meter. It automatically goes onto the meter, and that's by statute. The fees must be added to the meter. And then 706-8826, it gives you guys the authority and the ability to set this fee. Any other fee, whether it's medallion fee or zone fee or anything like that, I believe is going to have to be done by the legislature. The only fee that you guys have control over is this technology fee. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Emily.
Or you be,
Okay?
are you saying that you don't think we had authority to pass zone rates?
No, I think you had the authority to pass the zone rates, but my understanding, and I think Curtis might get into this a little bit more, is that that would have to be, have it changed, would have to be done by the legislature.
I think it's talking specifically about agency revenue fees.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
yes, 100%.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Hi, Emily Serby, Chief Financial Officer for the Department of Business and Industry. As Todd mentioned, the fee that we do or that you have the ability and authority to change and set is the technology fee. And in consulting with the Legislative Legal Division, we have come to a consensus that that fee can be used to offset the reserves that fund the operating for the Taxicab Authority. What that does, that fee increase that we're asking for of 25 cents, is that will create solvency for the Taxicab Authority for the next 2 biennium. What it does not do is create extra positions or other unnecessary spending that could potentially be used to enhance the agency, but just to maintain the status quo, that 25 cents will do that. It'll allow for essentials such as technology, dispatchers, and taxi assistant programs that are required. It won't bring back the enforcement positions that have been cut recently or taken in the last legislative session. The trip counts continue to have a downward trend, and that revenue that is coming in from these trip charges is going to continue to steadily decline. This fee increase will help offset that. We are already in FY 26 and 27 dipping into the reserves that the taxi authority has and using that to offset our operating expenses and payroll. By the end of, or at the beginning of the next biennium, taxi will be insolvent if a fee increase is not put into effect. Over the last several days, I've heard several mentions of different options, such as an incremental fee increase. I do want to state that while that may keep us insolvent temporarily through the next couple biennium, it will not bring our reserves back up to a safe level for anything that could potentially go sideways, such as a rule change that would require $100,000 to fund. With the reserves steadily declining, the taxi authority does not have the ability to account for anything that could go badly in the next biennium. For example, there are at least 7 vehicles that we are at the end of their life, and we were not able to include those in this current budget to replace those vehicles that they need to continue their operations. Because those vehicles are at the end of their life, if any major mechanical failure were to happen, we would not have the funds to go out and fix those vehicles or replace them. This prevents them from doing their job and meeting their statutory obligations. They can't function without their vehicles. Keeping the reserves at a healthy level allows us to take into consideration, as I said, rulemaking, retirement payouts, small things that we can't necessarily account for or predict. A pandemic, statewide cyber attack, things that there's no way we can project these out. We need that reserve to maintain at 180 days, approximately 6 months of operating. That is standard across the state for what is considered to be a healthy reserve balance. And this 25-cent increase gets us to that. I've also heard mention that potentially we could offset some of that 25-cent increase by reducing other fees that are coming in, such as the medallion fee. If we were to offset by reducing a medallion fee, that would take away approximately $700,000 of a year of this 25-cent increase, which is 25% of what we're asking, which is not enough to get us to that healthy reserve balance so that we can safely continue to operate. I want to state Taxi Cab Authority is in trouble now. The fee increase is needed now, not in the future. We will be insolvent if this does not happen now. And with that, I will turn it back over to Todd.
And
Oh, go ahead.
so the reserve can be used to replace vehicles.
It can be used to offset the operating costs of the agency, yes.
Which would include vehicle.
Correct.
purchases. Can't be used though to replace a position. Can you be used to pay overtime, but you can't fund a position with the reserve?
You said the reserve. Are you talking about the tech fee?
No,
The
I'm
reserve-
talking about the
The
reserve. the
reserve,
180.
the reserve can be used for all operating.
So any
everything-
operating.
Yes.
Okay,
And
there's
we've
not a
consulted
restriction.
with the legislature legal division, and they have agreed that yes,
Okay.
these fees could be used for payroll, overtime, vehicle replacements, anything that helps
Well,
operate.
well,
the
let's make it clear.
agency.
What she's talking about is the tech fee.
I know she is talking.
Right, but the reserves do that
Reserve
as well.
is for, the reserve's for everything. The reserve is not limited. It offsets operating costs. It's the bank account. The
So
tech fee.
here's my point, Member Decker. To the extent that I would increase the tech fee and preserve or enhance the reserve, that reserve is there for anything.
Yeah, but I think the
While I
point,
restrict the use of the tech fee.
well, apparently LCB looks at it that way. You could look at it that way, but let's be clear. There is no reserve, correct? And there's not going to be a reserve. You're talking about going insolvent, which means you have no reserve.
We currently have a small reserve that is steadily declining at the rate of over $1 million a year.
So you'll be insolvent in June of 2028.
I think early July, so within the next. the first couple
2028,
of-
So you-
26.
FY 28.
So you have an opportunity in 2027 to present a budget to the legislature, which could put you in a very different position than you are currently today.
We have the opportunity to present a budget, yes. However, that budget is not guaranteed to ever go through in the way that we request. But the insolvency happens in July, first couple weeks. So, correct. So even if that budget were to take effect, we would not have the revenue coming in at that time to support it.
Yeah, there'd be a lag of at least 6 months, maybe
Correct.
longer. Yeah.
Well, that's a year after. It's a year after your budget becomes effective. Budget becomes effective in July of 27. And you're talking about going insolvent in July of 28.
Calendar year
Calendar.
27, which is fiscal
Okay,
year 28.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, fiscal.
So same,
All right,
same.
that's
time
it.
period.
I should have known you're from. Should have known it's fiscal year.
Gotcha. Okay, and so this. The 25-cent proposed tech fee increase would stabilize for 2 bienniums. Is that what you said?
Barring any major
Right.
disasters, yes, it should.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Curtis, the deputy administrator.
Good morning, for the record, Curtis Mel, Deputy Administrator. To continue on with what everyone is saying, that on page 6, the taxi will be insolvent by June of 28, fiscal 28, under the current stripped down budget with declining rides and rising costs, making the status quo unsustainable. The current reduced program with the senior ride taxi assistant program that aging services had to basically stop or reduce to a very bare bones minimum cannot be supported currently how we're operating. It has gone basically stopped. We've had meetings with their staff over there, and they're just concerned if we do start getting some funding and if we're not stable, the yo-yo effect of moving their staff around. They've had to reallocate the staff that were funded by that money that we gave them. So they have restructured their whole system over there. And with us bouncing around, they're not sure what's going to happen. We were already in talks with them previously about improving the process, trying to bring it forward and get away from the old coupon system. That is in the works, but that's going to take money to improve. We need to have the funding there so they can have the staff back in place and we can have the conversations to improve it. The 25-cent fee increase is required to restore that baseline operation to meet the compliance obligations and maintain solvency across the next 2 biennium, to include the taxi assistance program. Historically, I've had 19 years with this agency, and I've seen it rise up to 65 plus full-time employees, and then I watch it just get decimated over the years and just start falling apart. I actually left in 17 because of what was happening. But after COVID in 21, I saw the agency was so small. I think there was maybe 20 people there at that time. But there was still a light. There was still core people that wanted to do their job to make an improvement, you know. So I came back, and now I'm sitting in this spot where I have this chance to make a change. We've cut everything that we can with the agency. We've trimmed the corners. I've tried to speed up processes. We've lost positions. More people are wearing more hats every day. And I can't do any more. It takes people, it takes modernization of technology, and it takes money. So that's back to Todd.
Unless you guys have any questions for Curtis, I'm going to close. Questions
For Curtis.
Okay. So come to you today with one proposal, a 25-cent increase. It's not like over the last year, we haven't looked at other ways to try to get the funding necessary that it's going to take for us to be sustainable. But this one works. We know this one works. Emily and her staff have crunched the numbers. We know that this one works. Any other proposal out there, I don't know if it works, and I'm not willing to take the chance. We've got our backs up against the wall right now. I have an agency to run. I have people within that agency. I want them to be able to sustain their jobs. When they see people or positions being lost, that does nothing for morale. I also have an industry that we need to regulate. And I work very hard to work with the industry to try to bring pilot programs and new technology and things like that. It's something that I want to do as the administrator to help the industry out. And I feel like I've done as much as I can there right now. I'm willing to go further as I can, but without money, it's really difficult. So I asked this board to consider and pass this 25-cent fee or 25-cent fee to get us sustainable for the next 2 bienniums. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions I can answer.
You have some questions? I do, and you may not like them, but let me just start by saying I've run this agency twice, run 5 different agencies across 2 different departments. So I'm going to ask a couple questions that might be a little probing. The legislature just ended 6 months ago. You submitted a
Actually,
GFO.
they only left town a few weeks ago.
Well, let's say the regular legislative
of us
session.
northern.
Yes, right. That's true. And I don't want to, yeah, right. But there was a special session. That's another point. During the regular legislative session, did you ask for an increase in the drop fee?
I did not.
Okay. So this fee that you're asking the board to approve, that you made a point of, this is the only agency revenue fee that we can approve, is the only one you've asked for at this point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, and this allows you to be solvent for 2 bienniums, which is 4 years. So that allows you to bypass sharing with the legislature the agency's fiscal problems for 4 years. For 2 bienniums, you don't have to go to the legislature and say, we've got a fiscal issue, we need to raise the drop fee, or we need to find some kind of solution. So what changed from the legislatively approved budget that you are currently now in that apparently was approved by the GFO and the legislature and all of a sudden puts you in a position where you're insolvent?
Yeah,
Or you will be insolvent?
I'd like to address that. I testified in front of the Ways and Means Committee last legislative session on 2 different occasions, explaining our situation with the legislature. One of them was, one of the legislators asked me to bring back a proposal during that time. I was unable to do that, but I can tell you that I have a letter from the legislature asking us, where are we at? In fact, I have to give this update every 6 months, I think it is. Every 6 months, I have to give an update to the legislature about where we are financially, what we're doing to solve that problem. I don't have any other options right now. Maybe I did at that time. I didn't take that opportunity, if that's what you're getting at. But I have this option right now. And this is right now the only option I see.
Okay, but that sounds like your emergency. But what I'm saying is if you didn't ask for an increase in the drop fee in 27, if we approve this, you won't have to ask in 29, theoretically 31. So you're going to continue to report to the legislature every, what, 3 months? Was it 3 months?
Every 6 months.
For the next 4 years, 6 years?
And I will say, and Emily brought this up, barring a disaster, we're going to have to look at other ways as well. If the LCB is going to charge us $100,000 on regulations that we don't have right now, we're going to have to do something just to cover that. This is just operations. I'm not asking for a lot of new bells and whistles.
I understand that. And yeah, you don't have to, you guys said that and I understand that. And again, I'm sympathetic. I ran this agency twice. My point though is you had a legislatively approved budget that was solvent that should last you until the end, till basically the next legislative session, 2027, fiscal year, whatever that is, end of fiscal year 27, right? What happened with that budget that put you in a position where now that budget is no longer adequate and the agency is insolvent? Because I assume the budget that was approved by the legislature wasn't insolvent, correct? It was a balanced budget.
In order for us to get the budget solvent, we cut positions and other operating needs, such as the vehicle replacements, and we cut costs wherever we could. Part of the report that we go back to LCB and report on is they have asked us to review rates and fee increases and look at that to see what could be done.
I understand that. I think the answer to your question is that the budget was solvent pending the dwindling of your reserves in order to subsidize it, right? And you're saying in July of 2028, your reserves will be at zero. You won't have any reserve money to keep your budget solvent. I think that's how you got the budget passed. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So are you currently serving as the deputy administrator of the NTA?
I am.
And your chief is currently serving as the chief inspector of the NTA?
Yes.
Are you cost allocating any funds from the NTA that is not insolvent for the work that is being performed either jointly or by the TA on behalf of the TA? Because for the entire 7-8 years that I've been involved with Taxicab Authority, most of the UPT enforcement was being done by the Taxicab Authority, even though the TNC fees were being collected by the NTA. This is something that I proposed in 2018 to the director of the department at that point. If you're effectively, or let's say practically, combining the agencies, why not take the extra step and cost allocate some of the revenue coming in for TNCs for the regulation that the enforcement that the Taxicab Authority is doing on behalf of the NTA?
There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm going to
The answer is no, you haven't done that, basically, because I don't need you, yeah.
Okay.
But that is an option. You're talking about we have no options. I think that's an option. That could have been presented at the legislature as well, right? Theoretically, or anyway, so let me go on to the next question, because there isn't really an answer to that one. Has GFO approved this rate increase? Like, does the governor's office know about this rate increase that you're asking us to approve, and have they approved that?
They are aware that I'm requesting this fee, yes.
And what, how about the legislature? Has LCB, are they aware of it? Have they approved it? Because I'm unsure as to why GFO and LCB would approve this rate increase of 25 cents But 6 months ago, you guys didn't feel like it was worth it to ask them for an increase in the drop fee. Because the drop fee is paid by industry. The fee that you're asking us to do is a pass through to customers. Not only that, but if you ask me, LCB's assessment that tech fee can be used for operating expenses is a little bit tenuous. If LCB says that it's okay, then hey, great, I'm not going to challenge them. That's not what it says in the bills. So I would prefer that the legislature said, yes, that's what we meant. You can use it for operating expenses. As in a regular session, when you ask them for a 25% increase in the tech fee, or let's say a 25% increase in the drop fee, so that we know that that's really what they meant. Because I don't know what they meant. You're asking us to charge customers tech fee, and then you're going to use it for other stuff. So we talked about this at length 6 months ago. Did industry generate a solution as they promised?
No.
Do we know why?
No.
Because this is very specifically you asking us to charge customers. Industry gets a pass. They're upset that you're not enforcing UPT laws, but they're saying, but we promised we'd raise fees here and there, licensing, permits, all that kind of stuff to cover your budget, but they didn't do that.
Part of my frustration.
Okay. I just want to make it, yeah. And this is why I'm asking to make all that stuff clear, because in the end, if the public pays this 25-cent tech fee, that's not really going to be used for tech. That means industry doesn't have to pay that 25 cents as a drop fee or some other type of fee. It also means the legislature doesn't have to vote on it. When you tell me this is the only fee that the board is authorized to increase, what it tells me is you didn't ask anybody else. You dropped it on our lap once it was an emergency, which is not really an emergency till end of fiscal year 27, when you have another shot at the legislature. So my last question is, tell me why the public should pay this. Industry should get a pass, and this should be outside of the normal legislative process. By the way, could have gotten a special session too. I mean, I'm just wondering why we should tell the public, we're going to charge you a tech fee, but what you don't know is we're going to use it to keep the agency solvent because we don't want to bother industry. I think that should be on the record because that's what you're asking us to do.
Just to be clear, Member Decker, that 20 cents is also paid for by the public, as is the 5 cents. We only get fees from every taxi ride. We are not and you know this.
Well, let's be clear that 20 cents is paid by the public, sure, but it comes out of the industry's portion of the rate.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. But any pass through is still going to be paid for by the public. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Well, it's taken.
All rates are paid by the public. Not. Am I wrong about that?
No.
Rate equals cost to traveling public.
Correct.
I mean, I think there's a very distinct difference. When you buy a home, you pay for the cost of the home, and the cost for your realtor comes out of the proceeds that the seller would otherwise take. So you've paid it as the buyer, but it comes off the seller's portion. Same with the drop fee. It comes out of industry's portion of the fare. This doesn't. This is an tack on, an add-on to what the public already pays. Doesn't come from industry. Industry collects it for you, but it costs them nothing. So it's 100% public paid, no industry contribution. And I was here when industry testified very specifically that they were going to look at all kinds of different ways to make the agency solvent. Talking about charging the public extra was not one of them. And I'm just concerned that this dropped here because we're the only people you wanted to ask. No ask in the legislature, no ask special session. Plan to not ask in 2027 to the legislature. So this is not a long-term plan. You're asking us to dig you out of a hole. I agree you're in that hole, and I'm sympathetic to that hole. I'm horrified that your dispatchers are not being paid as dispatchers and that you don't have enough officers. But it's not enough of an emergency to have gone to the legislature and said, hey, we need to increase the drop fee that hasn't been raised since 2003. Now you're just dropping it to us.
And respectfully, I appreciate your opinion. I disagree. I think it is an emergency right now. I don't see us being able to sustain ourselves going forward if we don't get this fee increase right now. Again, any one little big event is going to kill us. And I buy insurance for my car for that type of an event. I want to have that insurance. Again, I am not asking for a whole bunch of extra things for this agency. I'm asking to sustain us for 2 bienniums. That's all I'm asking for.
You have it here.
I don't. Thank you.
So I'm going to weigh in, let you guys hear another perspective, I think. There are a lot of extrinsic influences that are affecting the financial stability of the authority. There's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. Legislature should have done this. The industry should have done this. We have an extrinsic, just in the Nevada Independent on the 14th of December, article about the taxicab industry. We are at half the number of rides we were at when the tech fee was imposed. So we're receiving half of that revenue. Shame on the legislature for not changing the drop fee. It's not that they didn't know it. I know they knew it from conversations. They made a choice that they weren't going to do that. Okay, legislature made a choice. You're right. That forces some choices perhaps on us that we have to make. The zone rates affect in part what we're collecting in rates. I'm reading David McCullough's book on Harry Truman right now, and he said the buck has to stop somewhere. Came up with that saying when he was an artillery officer in a trench in France during World War I. As far as I'm concerned, everybody else woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's now in front of us. What are we going to do? And I'm going to vote to give this rate increase because it's the responsible thing to do to stabilize the agency. It's not the only, it's stabilizing. Drop rate needs to go up so that we can get back officer position. Drop rate needs to go up so that we don't have to use a tech fee to do what the legislative council said we can do and use it for other related types of purposes. So to my thinking, would I have preferred that the legislature made this decision? Would I prefer that perhaps Uber and Lyft were told that they had to have regulatory costs at the same level as the taxicab authority would require if they were here, so that they would have to be paying into the state treasury at the same clip? Would I prefer that taxi rides are not going to be maybe siphoned off by loop? I mean, there's lots of things I might prefer, but those aren't within our authority, and that's not the problem before us today. I can't solve for all of those issues. I can solve for stabilizing the agency for now, and I actually, if it gives the industry a pass, okay, I'll take that into consideration when they ask me for a rate increase. And does it give the legislature a pass? Yeah, but I get to vote for one person or two people in the legislature. I'll take that up with them. I don't view this as bypassing the legislature because the fiscal stability of the agency is going to be in front of them in the next session. There's a budget there. And we're going to have people telling them, yeah, because you didn't fix this problem, board had to fix this problem.
Well,
In
and I
part.
don't mean to interrupt your flow, but this is part of my problem. If you came to us with a plan that in 2027, we're going to solve this problem once and for all by going in with this plan. We're going to ask for an increase in the drop fee. We're going to increase the permit pot, whatever it was. But what you said is this will make you solvent for 2 bienniums, which means you don't have to go in 2027 with anything. You could go in with a flat budget and be solvent till 2029 when it gets dropped on us or them or someone else saying, hey, this is still a problem. We just kind of kick the can down the road.
So I disagree with that because to replace officers in the field, to enforce the laws, go after illegal operators, we need more human beings. Only the legislature can do that. So Todd or whoever his successor is by that time, if that's the horizon he has for 2028 or 2027, I'm sorry, 2029, they're going to face that issue. And to Emily's point, are we going to have continuing declining numbers of rides? I think that is a real, regrettably, I think that's a real threat to the taxicab authority because of the alternative transportation platforms that are getting approved by other agencies or are allowed to operate. And so, we have to face the fact that we're going to be imposing a 25-cent technology fee on a declining economic base. So you and I just fundamentally disagree on this one.
Okay. Well, what I think is that your chief's concerns, industry's concerns about enforcement, adding bodies, paying your dispatchers, this doesn't fix any of that. This kicks the can to the next legislative session. So theoretically, although you haven't mentioned it, you're going to go in 2027 and say, here's what we need to do to actually bring us up to the level that we really want to be at. But for 2 years at least, or 4 theoretically, because that's what you're asking us for, is to be solvent for the next 2 bienniums at current levels. This doesn't impact Chief Del Padre at all. You don't get new people. You don't get new cars. Maybe you get new cars out of it. I don't know. Maybe you get to replace cars, but you don't get new tasers. You don't get all of the stuff that you need. And I agree you need. And I think my agency gave you the tasers that you have, and I'd be happy to give you more if we can drum any up. But this fee does not solve those problems. I want to make that very clear to industry. When you guys come up and say the TA is not doing this, the TA is not, out there doing UPTs. This is why, and passing through a fee to the public doesn't cut it. It doesn't solve anything. It keeps your flat budget flat. Emily, does it increase your reserves in any way, or does it just keep the budget flat?
It brings the reserves back to the 180-day mark that we've set.
Okay. Okay, so it increases the reserves, but it doesn't solve any of the agency's problems with not having enough. It just keeps you where you are. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate. That doesn't mean that our enforcement is going to go down any less. And I think I've got a very forward-thinking chief now. And I continue to get told one of the things the governor gets calls about is illegal transportation. We're looking at ways to handle that. And I know that that's not specifically your question, but I feel like we can do a better job. But just even paying overtime during the rodeo would be nice. And I think with this increase, we can do that. We don't have to pay for a whole brand new body for the whole year, but let us at least pay for overtime during these events so we can get out there and do what we need to do.
Isn't taser technology?
It is.
It is.
Okay.
It is,
okay.
but
So
I mean,
you can buy tech.
Well,
you can buy
I
tasers.
mean, if you want to be technical about it, the state budget category is not technology, it's
Oh,
equipment, but
okay.
okay.
I mean, we,
I guess the question that I would have for you, Mr. Administrator, is number one, you had indicated that there was a request from the legislature that they wanted you to provide some information and you said you weren't able to.
correct.
Why?
I ran out of time, actually, for no other reason. I was in conversations with the industry, and it was my understanding that the industry was going to provide something. And so I did not take it to the legislature myself.
Then they weren't really taking us very serious then, right?
I can't answer for them, sir.
So have we been in communication with growth and infrastructure or Chairman Watts or Max Carter, anybody to talk about the concerns that we have? Because looking at the legislature, you know, it's evolving. A lot of them are leaving. There's a whole new body that's coming in and a whole new group of new folks who will be on severe learning curves and don't have a clue. And so that probably will be problematic for us in 27. What do we do in the interim?
I can,
Do we meet with anyone? Are we talking to Chief of Staff Cherry? Or what are we doing?
without getting into any specifics, I will just say that after the first year, we have several things in the works to start working on some of those very things that you're talking about.
And then at the end of the day, I guess, how does ask, or if we were to ask of the state for anything, because we know how things went during this last session with Ways and Means, horrible situation, but then they had a special session and miraculously found a lot of money. But that's neither here nor there. What is it how do we benefit the state? What's the give and take here? How would legislators look at us and say, well, they're doing X, Y, and Z? Because I would lead with where our deficiencies are. I wouldn't lead with the fact that we just want to make our reserves healthy. I wouldn't lead with that to these legislators.
I agree, but again, remember weekly, I can't predict the future. All I can do is say, right now, this is where we're at. I want to get to where the people that work for me aren't worried about losing jobs. I want to get to the point to where we can pay overtime to go out and work these events and be able to do those kind of things. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If it's going to be a $10,000 bill to pay LCB for all of, I'm sorry, $100,000 bill
Just yeah, discount for brocade.
to pay for LCB for regulation changes, we're in trouble because I have brought forth probably close to 100 different regulations to change, again, to try to help the industry.
Yeah. I can say this to you, Mr. Chair. I would just think that in preparation for the 2027 legislative session, that whatever it is that we decide to do, we need to get on the same page and figure out how do we work to help save this this industry and this department, if you will. I mean, because it would be embarrassing, I think, to the state for us to be at the 11th hour and wait to respond, to be responsive.
Well,
I know what I do, excuse me, Rebecca, what I do at the college as the chief government affairs director. right now, while I'm sitting here at this board meeting, I have two legislators over at the college meeting with staff now, talking about things that we're looking forward to coming to the session with. And I would suggest that that's what we need to start doing. As my daddy used to say, we need to get our heels to clicking.
Here's what,
Because
here's
this
what
is
I'm going to
good.
propose. I don't want to make the agency solvent for two names. That's not our job. I want to make the agency solvent until the 2027 legislature, where the agency goes in with a plan in perpetuity, not for a year or a biennium, but with a plan to make the agency solvent so it doesn't have to be put back on us and they're in the public, with industry stepping up, saying, here's the plan for the agency based on, I'm looking at Chair Reeser's taxi ride graph. They're relatively flat over the last 3 years. The dip, that's where I was when I ran the agency.
Yep.
That huge dip. I've been here where you are, but this is a bad fix. It's bad planning. And so I don't want to make the agency, how much would it cost me, Emily, to make the agency solvent until 2027 when the legislature can be presented with a plan or how the agency moves forward in the future?
Well, you could sunset your 25 cents.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily, yeah. So I mean, I guess we could sunset it at the end of the biennium, but that's going to give you some wiggle room. Is that enough time?
I would have to run the
Okay.
numbers and get back to you.
Because I'm not a fan of saying, hey, this 25-cent pass fee on the public is going to keep the agency solvent for two bienniums so that we don't have to fix it in 2027. I'm not okay with that. So what happens after the legislative session in 2027, in my mind, is on you. That's your opportunity to go, hey, we have an emergency. It's a crisis. We need to fix this permanently. What you're asking us for is a stopgap, right?
I'm asking for a stopgap, but I'm not naive to think that Taxicab Authority is going to be here for years and years and years afterwards. And if rides continue to go down, there's going to have to be other asks at the legislature. I have no intentions coming back to this board anytime and asking for any more money from you guys.
Well, you say that, but you say that you haven't considered cost allocating any money from the NTA. So there are all kinds of options that you can work out with the legislature. My point is, go work it out with them. This is not a board issue. We're the only fee that you can come in and ask. This is the only fee you can ask us for. There's 40 other fees that you can ask the legislature for. My point is, go do that. If they say no and you're still in an emergency, okay, then I got a vested interest. But if you're saying you want 4 years so you don't have to ask in 2027 and maybe not even in 2029, I'm saying that's not really our job. Our job is not making the agency solvent. Our job is to fix rates, to be fair, make sure that the public can safely ride, the industry is solvent and all that kind of stuff. But the agency's budget is on the agency. And it sounds to me like a 25% increase in the drop fee at the last legislative session would have solved this issue probably better than what you're presenting us with today. So I don't know why that wasn't asked for in 2025, but what I'm saying is I want to make sure you ask for 2027 and that we're giving you 4 years of not having to do anything else to fix the agency, because this agency's been on a flat budget since I was here 8 years ago. And my point is, right before I took the agency, 17 officers were cut from the TA to make the budget solvent. Those officers haven't come back. You've got a few, but let's figure out what the plan is. Let's go do that. 25% doesn't solve the issue. It's a stopgap measure. And in my mind, it's a stopgap measure long enough to get you in line with the next legislative session where you can try to fix the problem.
And again, I respectfully disagree. I understand that you believe that this is a stopgap issue, but with declining rides, 2.6% a year, I may have to go back to the legislature again. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I just know that right now, when I took over, I was supposed to have this magnanimous amount of reserve. And that's the way I understood the way my budget was at that time. And within months, it was gone. And I'm not not an accountant. I don't understand how all of that happened.
That's why you have Emily.
That's why I have Emily. Yeah, but I had reserves, then I didn't have reserves, and then I started getting positions cut. And I'm tired of going through that. My whole agency's tired of going through that. We're hurting. That's why I'm here, because you guys can change this. You guys can make the difference.
My question is, why are you going through it? This is the wrong body. You don't have to keep going through it if you go to the legislature with a budget that slowly increases your reserves over time based on the last 5-year average of taxi rides. And if stuff happens and rides go down, but I'm looking at Chair Reeser's graph, they've been pretty flat over the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, 2.6% isn't a lot, but I mean, you're right. I think they have leveled off, but they are still declining. And with Zooks and the Paradise Boring Company and Waymo wants to come here now. I'm very proud that that you guys have approved the pilot programs to try to help the ridership, and I think it will. Whether that all levels off with these other entities that are trying to come into the industry, I don't know. I can't predict the future. Again, I know where we're at today financially. I know that you guys can help us fix that, whether you call it a stopgap or not. I believe that you guys have the authority to get us through the next 2 bienniums. And honestly, maybe it'll be a little more, maybe it'll be a little less, but I buy car insurance just because I don't want to get into a wreck and have to have that come out of my pocket. And this is insurance in case we're having that big issue happen, because it always does. And Member Deckard, you know that.
Well, so I don't want to mince words. If this isn't a stopgap, then let me ask, is this the permanent plan for solvency for the agency?
I think that's the permanent plan for today. I think this is where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Here's, Mr. Chair, just real quick, you just help me understand, because to me, and maybe I don't know, but I'm just kind of feeling like it's like us against them. And I'm like, where's the we? We're his board, right? And maybe that's not the right answer that you're looking for, or maybe not the right answer that should be on the table. Member Decker, you've been here, you have some great, and I respect you, sir. You have some institutional knowledge that I'm learning, listening to you, and you know way more than I do. But if he's here looking for some answers, and as influential as, with the exceptions of Member Graff, who's absent today on first professional business, this is a very influential board here. The relationships that this board has with legislators and the governor's office, I mean, it sounds to me like a conversation or some type of something needs to be assembled in terms of how do we, if this is not the answer, what do we do? I don't think throwing them back out there and say, go figure it out is the answer. We're the board. And if it fails, yeah, we can look at paid staff, but we're the board. As a board, we let it fail. What did we do to help save it? And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out, help me if I'm wrong here, but I'm just wondering, where's the we? It sounds like a us against them. And that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how do we fix this? How do we work together? How do we get on the phone? I'm texting Assemblyman Watts, who's the chair of growth and infrastructure right now, saying, hey, what do we need to do? Can there be a meeting? Are you guys, you and Max, meeting with anybody right now to talk about this? Because this is an issue.
Well, let me be very clear. Todd and I are close personal friends.
I know you guys know this.
And he's
Member
prepared.
Decker, I know that you know this, and you've been here. You've alluded to it several times when you were here. So I know you have way more institutional knowledge than I have. All I'm saying is, can we speak from a level of this is a we thing, not a them thing and a us thing?
Well, it's not an agency and board thing. I don't agree with you. I think this is a legislative issue. I think the legislature, I feel like we're cutting them out. I feel like we cut them out in 25. We're going to cut them out in 27. We're approving a fee. I don't know if GFO has supported this, but if they have, let's assume that they have. We're approving a fee on the public so that industry doesn't pay any increase in drop fee. And I don't know who's more capable of paying the fee, but I do know that if the agency had asked the legislature to increase the drop fee, which comes from agency,
Sure.
and they were denied, I'd feel very comfortable at saying, okay, well, the agency needs the money, so now we got to go to the public. But what they're saying is we didn't ask. We're asking the public to pay. We didn't ask the industry.
I just don't think, and no disrespect to Todd, I just don't think that he has the relationships nor the knowledge of how to deal with the legislature like you do. You know how to walk that floor. You know how to get in those offices. You know who to talk to, because if he knew it, or if he had those relationships, he would have known going before the Ways and Means Committee, he would have had his ducks in order. There is no way you go before the Ways and Means Committee and they're asking you for X, Y, and Z, and you go ill prepared. That's, you know that, Member Decker, because I know you know, because you're sharp. You know the relationships and how Carson City works. So I want to put that on the table too, because this is kind of coloring outside the lines to me, Mr. Chair.
So Administrator, if the fee is approved, how quickly would action be taken for overtime approval, hires, vehicle replacement?
I'm gonna defer to Emily on that, because once it's approved, it can be put on the meters right away, and I don't know how long it's gonna take to.
How many months of election do you need? Yeah.
Right.
Before you guys
Right.
benefit.
We would start to stabilize our reserves, which would allow us to go next session to request things that we would need, such as stabilizing efforts. So the vehicle maintenance, if there is enough at that time, we might be able to get the replacements for the vehicles we needed. This fee increase does not allow us to get extra positions and reinforces. However, things like overtime for the events that Administrator is speaking of, probably after about a month, we could start seeing the ability to go in and provide overtime for staff to attend these events and do their enforcement piece. It would not give us the ability to go hire new positions.
You know approximately how much is collected on a monthly basis? If it was a 25-cent increase.
That increase would equate to about 3.2 million in a year. So
And just for the record, what's the technology fee today?
5 cents,
It's 5 cents, right?
5 cents.
So,
And again, it hasn't been raised since its
well,
inception.
I'm just gonna say just simple back of the envelope math. With that 68.5, this is a inflationary request. He could have asked for 34.25 cents and just met inflation. And I want to analogize to something that we approved in a heartbeat. When Jeremy Aguero, or when our general rate case was heard and talked about the dramatic impact on the industry of inflation, of this same inflationary number on their payroll, on their cost of service, we didn't flinch to give them a rate increase to meet that, to stabilize their businesses. I don't know why we wouldn't do the same thing for our own agency, even if he was just going to use, even if the legislature said you can only use this for technology. That technology's gone up by at least that 68%. So to me, frankly, this is a no-brainer because the buck stops here on this one. We're the only ones that can do this. Nobody else can do this. The legislature said, this is your monkey, your circus, board. So I don't see this as I get your point of view, Member Decker, but this is our decision to make. And the weight of the evidence is not by a mere preponderance. It's clear and convincing to me. It's not quite beyond a reasonable doubt. But it's clear and convincing to me that this is an appropriate rate change. So I'm gonna support it. And I agree with you, Member Weekly, this is a we, this is not a we and them. And I don't know that that was, I don't want people to interpret that as what Member Decker was saying. He's basically saying there's some folks that meet every other year in Carson City that should have addressed this. And, you know, I've been in government and out of
Yeah.
government, in Nevada for 45 years. And yeah, there's a lot of things the legislature should have done and a lot of things
Yeah.
they shouldn't have done. And that's a woulda, coulda, shoulda.
You've been in it way before I was born, so.
I don't believe that.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I would never,
I was not with Harry Truman.
I would never disrespect, Member Decker, and if I did, sir, I
No, I don't
apologize.
suggest you were. I
Right.
just didn't
No,
want
I would
anybody
never do that.
out
Yeah.
there to think that he was.
No, I appreciate his,
He was
insight.
definitely a lead.
Institutional knowledge. Just that, you know, I just,
twice.
yeah, I just hope that we can maybe get with the, administrator and, Mr. Chair, per your
Yeah.
leadership.
I think.
Maybe appoint a little committee or something that could really have those conversations with you in terms of how do we move forward from a government affairs standpoint.
I think
Start
that's wise.
scheduling some meetings with some legislators, trying to figure out how to position ourselves, because there will be a new chair of Ways and Means. There will be a new chair of many of the different committees once the elections clear in 26. We'll see a whole new face of people up there. But I think also too, working with the governor's team to just give him a heads up as to where we are, and this is on his radar. I think it'd be, you know, fantastic. Although he's getting ready and preparing for his reelection. You know, he's still the governor and he's still doing the job, and so, you know, we just have to make sure that we keep those relationships intact. And we're not the only ones. And she is Nevada Systems for Higher Education, City of Las Vegas, Clark County. Everybody's meeting with legislators right now, trying to prepare themselves for 27 session, because this last one was horrific.
Yep.
And then to see what happened in this special session just kind of blew everybody out of the water. Like, okay, we were all denied money because we were told there was no money, and then special session comes and miraculously money appeared. So, yeah.
Well, we'll see how that plays out
Yeah.
in reality. You know, there's lots of ways to make budgets look like they work and they don't end up working. I think there's also another extrinsic, and I'm not weighing in one way or the other. We have, you know, small states have inordinate impacts on them by what the federal government does. And we've got a lot of federal government changes that are affecting little state budgets. So anyway, did you have something?
Nothing else.
Anything else? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 25-cent fee increase, tech fee increase.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Yay.
Go forward and slay them. And you keep on our radar need for a special committee, as Member Weekly said, because I think that needs to be probably something that's done.
You're welcome. Thank you, board.
Brings us to agenda item 8. We get to continue to listen to the administrator.
I'm gonna move over to the side chair now.
What do we need to know?
I'm gonna have Dominic stay close because he's gonna speak about the enforcement part of this. The rides, we did not make 1 million rides this last month. It's not uncommon in December, more recently, but, or I'm sorry, in November, but yeah, we didn't quite make 1 million. There's about 7,600 rides less than what the industry did. Or I'm sorry, 7,600 rides more than what the industry did last year. The revenue for the per trip charge, the employee revenue is $22 $0.15. And for the leases was $20.53. Trips month by month at this point, last year is down about $500,000, or about $500,000 rides for the industry. And medallions haven't changed. I'm gonna pass this back to the chief. Have him speak about the agency stats.
We still on the medallion, just so I'm. We're still of the view that. Changing medallions doesn't move the needle at all, right?
Not right now.
Yeah.
I would hate to see anything happen with the medallions right now.
Somebody asked me that.
Okay.
earlier.
Yeah, I'd hate to see anything happen with medallions right now.
Take it away, chief.
So just
don't need
flew
me.
back in from Spokane last night and boy, are my arms tired. I am a little bit behind here, but it looks like our citations dropped a wee bit in November. Our total violations also, not as much of a drop. So we're out there, we're not seeing as many, to translate that. Accidents went up. Sorry, accidents went down. Flipped on this page. Our batteries are down, complaints are up. Across the board, it looks like our lost property is down. It was high for October, so those they just kind of fluctuate, with no rhyme, no reason. So overall, we had, with the holiday season, typically in Vegas being a little bit slower in November, we're right where we should be. October was especially busy with F1 at the tail end of it. So we're right where we were.
And any particular customer complaint issues that came out of F1 this year?
We had go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, please do. I have some anecdotal.
Yeah. We did. I did get a report from our dispatch and we had roughly 21 complaints come into the office. That mostly had to do with signage, not knowing what was happening.
Okay.
That's kind of seems to be the theme that happens on these. People are just unaware that it's there. We even had one complaint that they knew about it last year and they didn't see the signage. They got in it. They were upset. The level of anger that comes out of the people is the worst part. They're really, really angry. And it's a little scary sometimes. You get a lot of fearful people and some of the complaints, but then just the anger and the obscenities that come through.
Is there anything else we could do on signage?
We did have a conversation with the airport and we're looking at different avenues. Again, it takes money to do it. And then we can't compete at the airport with advertisers. So when something like F1 comes in, people have blocked everything up. We do have some signage there. We just need to shore it up, I think. But it is on the industry. It doesn't come from our agency.
So that may be something where we need to reopen the surcharges, orders, and
Yes, and
That's what-
future conversations, I would suggest to have stronger signage.
The amount of money that the advertisers give at the airport is
Yeah,
way out
I
of our
get-
league.
I get that. I get that. I've heard the same thing about trying to post something at the Reno airport. Yeah.
There has been conversations for industry to pass out pamphlets at the hotels as well.
I will say I had an experience over at UNLV for the NFR. Longest line was the cab line. Why was it long? Because there were no cabs. So then we were staying in that area. We're getting no UPTs. We were seeing no UPTs. Somebody jumped out of the line right in front of our vehicle to illegally solicit. And then we towed that. that person, but the industry wasn't very responsive to the need of the customer base at UNLV, and they missed out on a lot of revenue right there. So I think there's something there too as well. Again, new, still trying to figure this world out, but I did see that as kind of a contributory.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
That's how F1 works.
that's fine. It's the chief that interrupted anyways. I try to highlight the inspectors almost every month because they are truly the ones that keep this industry safe. They go out and inspect these vehicles after accidents. They inspect their vehicles. That it's mandatory once a year anyway. And these guys they don't complain. They come to work and they just do what they're supposed to do. And seriously, they are the ones that keep this industry safe. And I'm just very blessed to have the guys that I do have right now. And then the last thing I have is there's 3,114 cabs in service now, which again, when I first took over, I think we were right around 2,500. So I think we continue to see a rise in that. And that's always a good thing. That's all I've got.
Any questions on stats?
Nope.
Questions on stats? Webb, anything we should know other than that you didn't take any guilty pleas or not, you didn't make any non-guilties? No, nobody got a not guilty issue. None? Anything?
Don't think I have anything.
Future agenda items. Can I, the administrator, on this surcharge? Complaint about notice, sufficient signage.
Yes.
If we were to put that on the February, there's nothing we can do to fix New Year's.
Right.
But electronic daisy chain would be the next one.
Yes.
Could we put on if we put on the February agenda to reopen the surcharge order? Because we need to, I believe the existing order expires at the end of this year.
At the end of the year.
So we need to re-up it. And I think give you till February to do that. We don't have anything between now and then except for EDC. Sure, it'll qualify, but I also look at the signage issue at the same time as whether we need to do something and ask the industry to do something more than.
I have a question. Does it take a board if I want to change the signage, can I do that without the board's approval, or is that going to take?
I'm going off of memory. This Webb may, or we may both not remember. I believe the language of the signage is actually in the law.
Try to.
Yeah. So I don't know how much flexibility. That's exactly what I want to revisit.
Sure.
Is the signage issue.
Okay.
And what exactly we're doing, what the industry's doing, I get the anger thing, but I also get the need for the surcharge. So 100%. Any other future agenda?
Just a question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Just ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Yes, Mr. Administrator, I wanted to know, and I'm seeing these things now, these Amazon Zoots that are out there, these driverless taxis.
The Zooks.
At what point or at any time do we believe that this will have an impact on our industry? Or do we?
Yesterday, maybe.
Yesterday.
And this is part of the regulation of the other agency that I'm a part of. And I understand, and this was before I got over to the other agency, so I don't have a lot of information on it, but they were approved for the app. I can't tell you exactly how many are out there. There's not a ton. There's not as obviously as many as Ubers, Lyfts, or taxis, or even limos, but it's definitely something that concerns me.
But like we have interveners here that come before us. When this app was considered, who made the approval? Was it the county or was it the state?
I believe the app was approved by the NTA.
Just by the NTA.
Yeah.
And were you all called in to just ask your questions in terms of what type of impact it would have on the industry?
That was before I went over to the NTA.
Be interested to know that. And then also, the Director of Aviation just did a presentation before the Board of County Commissioners, and they talked about a number of things, the modernization plan. Are we in communication with the director there to figure out what does that mean for our industry?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Curtis and I met with the airport yesterday. And that's definitely, we learned a little bit about the modernization plan. And we plan on having monthly meetings with the airport. They're going to reach out to me, and I will invite whoever I feel is appropriate for that month to go to the meeting. So we're going to work on that together monthly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions? Thank you. That'll close agenda. Oh, no other future agenda items. That'll close agenda item 9. That takes us to our second and last public comment session. This matter is set on our agenda pursuant to NRS Chapter 241. And for the purposes of taking comments from the members of the public on matters within our jurisdiction, we can't take action on those items, but we welcome comments from those who have not already used up all that time. Ms. Rushton.
Thank you. For the record, Kimberly Maxon Rushton with the law firm Cooper Levinson, and appearing on behalf of the Livery Operators Association. I'm following up, Chairman and members of the board, to the prior authorization relative to the tech fee. There's questions relative to the operational aspect of that. One, how does it apply to the flat rates? Are we going to increase each of the flat rates from $21 to $21.25? That's something that, again, we intended to present, and perhaps we should have filed a petition for leave to intervene. We didn't want to do that because we support the TA. We support the increase and we recognize it. But we have a concern for a lot of the same reasons that Member Decker stated before. Do we fund it for the next 4 years at 25 cents, knowing the impact it'll have on the already declining number of trips? And do we fund it for 4 years, knowing that in 2027, there's going to be another renewed quest to combine the NTA and the TA? So we're funding something that may not even be in existence in 2027. The other concern that was raised is the fact that under 706.8826, which is the authority for this body to impose a technology fee, under subsection 3B, it says that any certificate holder who's subject to an order by the TA shall pay to the TA a fee set by the Taxicab Authority that must not exceed 20 cents per trip for each compensable trip. Did you just violate that statute? I mean, it says that you can only go to 20 and you can impose a technology fee, but does it limit you to the 20 cents and you're already imposing 5? So can you really only go up 15 cents? Those are the things that I think, again, better preparation on our part, we should have presented this to you. But I would say that we might want to bring this back for reconsideration and just raise these points. But I think it's very important to know that, one, we fully support the TA, recognize the budget deficiencies that it has. We did advise the legislature that the LOA and the other members of the taxi industry were willing to supplement the budget if we needed to help this budget issue. They basically said, we'll figure out their budget for them. So again, the industry wants to participate. Administrator Park is absolutely right. He has done everything in his power to try and help this agency stay afloat. And the approval of the pilot program ties directly to this technology, and it makes sense. But it may need to be more gradual, considering the fact that, again, there's the 20 cents that's listed in the statute. And we're talking about funding an agency that may not be in existence after the 2027 legislature because of the constant push to merge the agencies. So again, we'll talk about it as a group, but uniformly, I just wanted to say that the LOA supports the TA, its budget, and its need for a budget increase in order to sustain because of the good work that they do. So again, thank you for your consideration of these points, and we'll discuss it. And if we think it's necessary, we'll bring it back next month for further consideration.
Say, if somebody wants to petition to have us reconsider it, they can do that, put that in front of us, but I'm not uncomfortable with what we did.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much and happy holidays.
Chris Sanchez, for the record, Director of Department of Business and Industry. Just wanted to say a few things on the record. My office, as the political appointee and the Director of Department of Business and Industry, is working very frequently with legislatures and individual legislators. We've been talking to them, as you might imagine, daily during the session. I was just at the Sunset Subcommittee testifying yesterday. Our team was testifying on another matter. The Sunset Subcommittee has decided to look at NTA and TA as part of the, I think it was 14 or 16 entities that they're going to be reviewing in the interim as they prep for next session. I committed to that committee that we would be providing all the information that we have in the director's office, both to the finances of the agencies and potential policy initiatives, whether that be a merger or any other idea that may come forward or any that we may have looked at. We will be providing that to the legislature and working with the legislature in the interim as we think about the future of the NTA and TA. And the other thing I'll mention is that we absolutely have been working with the GFO as we've been trying to solve this puzzle of both the short term and long term, what taxis, not only solvency, but looking at the community that we serve, the constituents that we serve, the health and vitality of the industry, and what people expect when they come here to have the experience that they'd like to have in Las Vegas. So we're taking all that into consideration. I encourage the industry to work with us. I encourage any of the legislators to work with us. We do not intend and will not do this alone. We've got to get every bit of input that we possibly can. We are seeking to build what will be the TA of the future. As Todd and I have talked about a lot, regulatory agency that was created in 1993 with an agglomeration of 12 different agencies. We have yet to go through and look at whether that structure serves us today in 2026 and beyond. And we will do that. And we are taking that task very seriously. So appreciate the board's deliberations today. Look forward to working with all of you. If there's any questions, and certainly with all of our electeds to make sure we get this right. So, thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to address us in Las Vegas? Anybody participating remotely who wishes to address us?
No.
That concludes our substantive agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody opposed? So carried.
Absolutely. Okay, good. I need you.